We're going to move into item 10. Mr. Dickinson.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the Transportation Policy Council. My name is Jim Dickinson, and I work here at H-GAC in the Short Range Planning Group. I'm here to present the agenda items 10A, B, and C. We begin with item 10A. The Technical Advisory Committee has recommended 3 amendments to the Transportation Improvement Program and the Regional Transportation Plan for your approval this month. Amendment number 19, at the City of Pearland's request, would delay their locally funded O'Day Road widening project out of the TIP and into fiscal year 2024 of the Regional Transportation Plan. Amendment 34 would program approximately $2 million of additional federal, state, and local funding for the Montrose Management District's I-69 bridge lighting project to cover a shortfall. This would be for architectural lighting on the 6 bridge spans over the Southwest Freeway at Hazard, Woodhead, Dunleavy, Mandel, Graustark, and Montrose Boulevard. The recommended proposal is that the Texas Department of Transportation Houston District, H-GAC, and the Management District would split the increase, each making a contribution of about $665,000. This funding would allow the project to stay on schedule as it has been advertised for a February 2016 letting. Moving on. The third amendment in 10A is Regional Transportation RTP Amendment 2040-1. At the recommendation of the Federal Highway Administration, this amendment would program future right-of-way and construction phases of 5 projects from the 2015 call for projects into the 2040 Regional Transportation Plan. And this would allow for federal approval of design funding that is already programmed in the TIP and for environmental approval actions on those projects. Are there any questions about any of the amendments in item 10A?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'd like for us to be able to separate Amendment 34 on this vote, if that's okay with you.
Absolutely. I've got a motion and a second to separate out. We'll separate 19 and 2040-1 from 34. That's your wishes?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir, it is.
Let's go with the second. Any discussion on that? And this is just a motion and a second to separate them. It's not approval of any of them. So, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. All right, let's go to item Amendment 19 and 2040-1.
I move to approve 19 and 2040-1.
Got a motion and a second to approve Amendment 19 and 2040-1. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. That brings us to Amendment 34.
Move to approve Amendment 34.
I've got a motion and a second to approve Amendment number 34. Discussion. Commissioner.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. This project has nothing to do with safety or mobility for our area. Generally speaking, I know when an artist designs something, they have very difficult time changing that design. Engineers do this all of the time. If they realize that the scope of their project exceeds the budget, they amend the scope unless they have additional and that's something I just can't bring myself to support this expenditure of funds that are not specifically earmarked for scenic improvements to our freeways. I would encourage anyone who is of like mind on this council to join me in voting against this expenditure. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Alan, would you be so kind as to share with us where these funds are coming from, what fund and that type of thing?
The original award for this project was made by the Texas Transportation Commission in 2012. At that time, we had a federal program which was essentially designated for scenic improvements that were beyond the normal funding that a state or project sponsor would allocate for landscaping and that sort of thing. And also eligible under this program for bicycle pedestrian improvements. H-GAC had earlier invited a call for projects. This is one that was submitted and ranked. The allocated funds to our area was relatively small, and after picking a small number of bicycle and pedestrian projects which were higher ranked, it left this project below the funding line. Under the rules provided to us by the Texas Transportation Commission, any unselected projects from our area were also invited to compete on a statewide basis. This project was submitted and selected by the Texas Transportation Commission. Subsequent to that, the review of this project, its scope and its implementation revealed that there were some, I guess I would call them engineering issues, in the sense that the original cost estimates had presumed that some things, like the electrical work for this lighting, would be able to be used for the new lighting that was going to be installed. TxDOT, I believe, recommended that that lighting was potentially part of the original problem, and that it be replaced. That resulted in increasing the cost of the scope of work. There were some other cost issues related to ensuring that the traffic management during the time of construction was sufficient, that there wasn't going to be a lot of delay for people crossing those bridges, because they are quite busy during peak periods, as you see if you're traveling on the freeway. In addition to that, the Montrose Management District took the original lighting design and felt that it really provided lighting on the exterior portions of the bridge. They thought that lighting needed to be enhanced for those who were either driving or walking across the bridges as well. And so they engaged a firm to help them look at some alternative designs and enhancements that resulted in additional lighting on the interior part of the bridge, which also added to the increased costs. There have been a lot of discussion between the Montrose Management District and the Texas Department of Transportation. I'm going to invite Quincy to speak to that, but that was the source of the additional costs for the project. Originally, the letter that we provided to you concerning this requested that we consider participating in 50% of the cost overrun, which we have done on other projects when the resources are available and the Policy Council agrees in the priority of the project. We had discussions with Montrose Management District about the fact that this was a commission-selected project. At that time, there was funding that was targeted to this type of improvement, and those kinds of funds weren't available. We wanted to see if they would be willing to increase their share. They agreed to that. TxDOT also agreed to pick up some costs, including the construction management and a share of the cost overrun. That's reduced our participation to 1/3 of the cost overrun that you see before you today. So that's essentially the history of how we got to where we are. And Quincy, I'd invite you to make any comments you'd like.
Thank you, Alan. And I appreciate your factual review of what's happened here. I just want to remind everyone that when we built these bridges, they were, and still are, considered an archway, a gateway to the area. And we had specialized lighting on that on the outside for no other purpose than, to enhance them. And we had problems, and what you're seeing there that's non-functional is actually second generation. And I've been involved personally with trying to upgrade those. And maintenance has been a problem because as the technology advances, it was hard to get parts and other elements to repair what was there. The management district came to meet with us and showed us, their plan, and we spent a lot of time vacillating over back and forth. This project does provide lighting for the traffic on the foot traffic, especially on the bridges. But furthermore, what we're doing here also provides for the maintenance. And I'm talking about the city of Houston providing the maintenance of the lighting. And we've had problems in the past with that because of the failure of parts and some other issues. But I'm confident moving forward that this gives us a better opportunity to have a system that's maintained. And that's why we were willing to put up a little extra money to get this thing over the finish line. And I'd be glad to speak if you guys got questions about what we were thinking or what.
Just to clarify, I believe the Montrose Management District is going to be responsible for the maintenance of the facility in the future. Is that correct? Not the city of Houston.
I'm sorry. Yes, sir.
Yeah, so the Montrose Management District, in addition to picking up an increased share of the additional costs, has agreed to maintain these improvements.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you, gentlemen. Is there any other discussion?
Yes. The decorative lighting was requested by the management district, is that correct? For the interior lighting on the street?
Yes, the additional lighting was requested by the management district.
And that enhances the walking and the driving internally on the street, which safety is important. I guess one of the questions I have is, has the management district deposited their money with TxDOT? As one of the public commenters made, there might be some issues there. And I'd hate for us to get down the road on this project and that money not be available. If that may be a concern, it probably isn't, but I thought it'd be important to ask that question.
And I do not know the answer to that. Do you, Mr. Allen?
No, that as far as I know, they have not given it.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other discussion? Yes.
Mr. Chairman, do you know if, or Alan, do you know if TERS is involved in any way with the management district? And is there or has there been a statement made by the city of Houston on this request that could be read to the board, or a representative of the city that may speak to their issue before there's a rendering?
I will say that I've received a phone call from the city of Houston. Mr. Rudick, who's the director of public works, apologized for not being able to be with us today. As you know, they've got a lot of transition things going on at the city. But there was an extensive conversation with the city of Houston, and Mr. Allen may have been involved in three-way conversations with them. I certainly talked with them. I think number one, the city did express their strong support for this project going forward. Number two, the only concern that they had initially was defining the responsibility for the maintenance of the project. I think the bridges themselves are actually city thoroughfares, is that correct? Once the management district indicated that they were happy to be assume the responsibility for the maintenance of it, the city had no objection to the project. So that's my extent of my conversation. I'll defer to Mr. Allen.
That's correct. Alan, I'd like to add, though, we're only talking about the lighting. I mean, we still do graffiti removal and things like that, and when the arch bridges get to the point where we need to repaint, that'll be our project as well.
Mr. Chairman, I agree with Commissioner Sinak in the public commenter. I just think that the funds could be better utilized doing something else, and I just don't feel like under our stewardship this is a good use of these funds. So I'd be voting no.
Any other discussion? No. Yes, Commissioner.
Trying to get lit up here.
There we go. Can someone tell us, I believe there are lamp posts that are already on the bridges for the pedestrian walk. Can anybody confirm that? I think I've seen them up there.
Yes, sir. I can confirm that there are lamp posts on the bridges. The lighting they're going to provide is different from those lights. I mean, for the pedestrian lighting is different than what those lamp posts provide, for at least what was shown to me on their plans.
And can someone tell me what the initial investment was on the lighting system that was put in initially, and who paid for that?
Initial
The
investment,
lighting system that was installed.
that was installed as part of the original reconstruction of the Southwest Freeway. That's when those bridges were completely replaced by TxDOT, and that original lighting was installed at that time. So I don't recall exactly when that happened. Quincy, is the mid-90s?
Yeah, it was in the early 2000s. And,
Early 2000s.
And we had trouble with the first generations. Before we left that job, I believe we did parts of it twice. I mean, that's what I'm saying. What you're seeing out there is the second generation. Of course, it's not working now. So.
But I always appreciate TxDOT working with us on all of these projects. But the cost of this project went from 1.7 million, I believe, to 3.8 million approximately. And did anyone hear from MMD about the possibility of reducing the scope as a solution to this budget shortfall?
I had the management district. I had the management district in my office, and we did discuss reducing the scope, but I didn't realize how much pedestrian lighting, things like that they had put into this, and so the decision was made not to reduce the scope.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Is this Quincy, is this a time sensitive? Obviously, there's a lot of questions being asked.
They always are.
Is this important that we pass this today, or?
Commissioner, it's not time sensitive. I mean, we'd like to get on and get this done, but
You've answered it.
All right, is there any other discussion before we call the question?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
The new representative from the city of Houston is here, David Robinson. It may be good to make a motion to suspend for a couple minutes and let him address this issue that I believe is under his purview.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Keller, thank you for the introduction. I do understand that I'm the appointee coming up here for the city of Houston, so it's a pleasure to be with you this morning. While that has not been made public or official, it is my understanding that I'm to sit with you all in the upcoming meetings. So as someone who has a fair understanding of this contract and what's before you today, let me say that it is my understanding that the management district is in negotiation and understanding with the city of Houston that should the vote go in favor of this project today, that there will be an agreement signed and binding with the city in accord for the duration and term of the contract. So this is, in fact, as has been said by Quincy, something that is comprehensive. The street level lighting is, in fact, to help with pedestrian and vehicular lighting at the road surface. And I think this is something that has gone forward with much consideration, much anticipation in the community at large, as well as locally with the management district. And I think we're very excited for the potential for this, both as the city of Houston, as well as locally, and for what it holds for the region.
All right, sir. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I think we ought to take into account the incredible amount of money that TxDOT and others is actually designing these bridges of this magnitude. They're incredible. Compared to bridges that used to be there, and the track-trailer bridge used to hit frequently, which was nothing but a hazard. I think TxDOT made an incredible commitment by designing and building the bridges of that, I think, class, which I consider extraordinarily great bridges.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other discussion?
Yes. It appears to me that this is there's appropriate lighting there for the street level and pedestrian lighting, and this is a function of decorative lighting. Is that Is that what I'm gathering out of this conversation, that we're changing fixtures to make the area more eye appealing? Is that the case?
It's really a combination of both street level lighting as well as decorative lighting to align the arches that are, so it will be both a visual point of interest as well as one of protective public safety at the street level. Combination of street lamps that are considered and designed as a package.
Yes, I concur that the pedestrian lighting is going to be enhanced with this project, so.
Okay, but would we be able to enhance the pedestrian and street level lighting without using the expensive lighting fixtures?
Well, they're LED lights. I mean,
I guess I view this as the difference between you purchase a vehicle and it comes with a set of tires that is rated by the manufacturer, but if you want low profile tires, you pay for the rims and you pay for the tires. I'm interested in paying for the tires that are safe on the vehicle, not necessarily the low profile. So are we going low profile here? Is that what we're doing?
well, Ken, I understand your position, your point, and obviously we have to be very careful with state and federal funds and the money that's available to us. This bridge, these 7 bridges are gateway structures. We've had this decorative lighting on the arches since we built them as to enhance this entry point, much like the landscaping that we do in the area. We spent over $1 million doing landscaping on this project. It's unfortunate that we've struggled with the lighting, trying to get it, installed and maintained. But this is one of our gateway structures.
Alan, my understanding from Alan stated early on, this was originally enhancement money. So for those of you that think we should go fix some potholes for this money, we can't. That's enhancement money, says that's where you're going to spend it. So we're not talking about the choice of using it there or fixing a pothole. So.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other discussion before we call the question?
One last one, if I may.
Yes, sir, Commissioner.
Alan, could you clarify that for us? My understanding is that these funds that H-GAC's portion would cover are in fact not scenic funds, but are in fact funds that can be used for any transportation project.
The additional $600,000 that's requested before you would come out of the Surface Transportation Program. They're eligible for this use, but you're right. Those are funds that we use for mobility, for safety, and those sorts of things as well. But the balance of these funds are coming from the management district, from the original Transportation Enhancement Award, or from funds from the Houston district.
Thank you for your clarification.
All right, thank you. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of Amendment 34, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
I think we're going to need a show of hands. All in favor, show your hand. Secretary, are you counting? 2, 3, 4. 5. Opposed? All right, looks like the ayes have it. So thank you. It's good discussion. 10B, Mr. Dickinson.
Yes, sir. Moving on to item, there we go.
10B.
Item 10B are administrative modifications for your information. We have one. It's the Regional Transportation, or the RTP Amendment 2040-2. And this would split the McCaleb Road segment from the Fish Creek Thoroughfare Corridor Widening Project in Montgomery County. This action would allow that segment to receive environmental clearance on its own. Are there any questions about Amendment 2040-2?
Do we have a motion?
This is an information item.
Information only, thank you. All right.
And
C.
Item 10C is future amendments for your preview. Both of these items involve committing surface transportation program metropolitan mobility funds to planning studies that are listed in the Unified Planning Work Program. They will be utilizing statewide project grouping in the TIP and in the STIP in the future. Amendment 41 better defines the scope of the 2016 Subregional Planning Initiative to be the State Highway 146 Subregional Study. This study will analyze transportation infrastructure and land use in eastern Harris County and western Chambers County, which includes the cities of Baytown and Mont, Belvieu. This is one of 3 subregional studies that's listed in the UPWP, and we anticipate coming back to you in the future with the other 2 as their scopes become further developed. Amendment 42 programs Surface Transportation Program Metropolitan Mobility Funds for 5 Livable Centers Initiative Studies. And these are awards that were selected from the competitive 2015 Livable Centers Call for Planning Studies. Each of the study partners has worked with H-GAC and committed the local funding match. We anticipate that 1 or more of these studies will begin in the current fiscal year. Are there any questions about the 2 amendments in item 10C?
And we'll see those in the future.
Yes, sir.
Any questions for Jim? All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And 10D, we've got a resolution for approval. Mr. Nicholas Williams. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members, again, my name is Nicholas Williams. We're coming to you today with a number of amendments to our 2016-2017 Unified Planning Work Program. We have typically made amendments this time of year to make some adjustments to our previous budget projections and reflect any comments received by the Federal Highway Administration. As a reminder, the UPWP, the budget and text is typically developed in April, the approved in July, and then takes effect at the beginning of the fiscal year in October. Your meeting material has detailed information about the changes, and we're going to review them task by task. Starting with Task 1, which is our program management task. This task receives minor modifications to the operational expenses. This includes things such as travel, meeting expenses, printing, postage, etc., and it's being adjusted based on complete fiscal year 2015 expenditure figures. You're going to see this same change in all 5 tasks today. These line items are increased by $6,500 in planning funds for both years of the plan, for a total increase of $13,000. Moving on to Task 2, which deals with data development and maintenance. Again, we have modifications to operational expenses in the amount of $3,675 in fiscal years 2016 and 2017. We have a new product added in, value capture study, which is modeling and related economic analysis of the development and value impact of both rail and highway improvements for the US 290 corridor. We have 2 carried over projects from our previous UPWP. The first, 2.2B10, is the development of a MOVES emissions model tool. The second, 2.2B11, is a Kirkwood Drive traffic modeling study. These amounts do not reflect budget increases. The activities for these projects stretched into the new fiscal year and must be reflected in the current UPWP. In summary, our Task 2 increases by $123,350 in planning funds. Moving on to Task 3, our short-range planning tasks. We again all have only minor operational expense increases, $2,500 again in fiscal years 2016, 2017, for a total of $5,000. Task 4, our long-range planning task. This task includes a number of work product description modifications as a result of comments by Federal Highway. These are, for the most part, minor changes to wording or descriptions in the document. Your meeting materials have detailed redlined edits in there if you want to see what was changed. Removal of work product 4.4A6, and this is a conducting analysis and utilizing data from our Livable Centers program for presentations and as a resource to local governments. This was removed, but the deliverables and the activities for this task were added into 4.4A4. Again, we have modification operational expenses, $2,500 in fiscal years 2016 and 2017. We have 3 carried over projects, Fort Bend County Major Thoroughfare Plan, Montgomery County Thoroughfare Plan, and the South Montgomery County Mobility Plan. Continue with task 4, kind of on the other side of carryover, we have a product funding reduction here. This is the 4.16, the City of Houston Bicycle Plan. Again, the budget for this project is not being reduced, merely the amount that's reflected in this UPWP. The bike plan made great, faster progress in the previous fiscal year, therefore we've reduced the amount of funding to complete it for this one, so it was reduced down to $11,000. We have a product funding change. 4.2A13 is a travel options research and planning study. This was erroneously marked as a planning funded project in the UPWP. It's in fact a state planning and research fund. So what we've done here is we've cleared out the $50,000 planning fund and then added in the $56,000 in SPR. The extra $6,000 includes a little bit of the carryover from the previous UPWP. In summary, Task 4's funding increases by $45,000. Finally, Task 5, special planning studies. We again have modifications to operational expenses, the amount of $2,325 in fiscal years 2016 and 2017. We have removed a product. 5.1A1 was a active major corridor studies. This is an item that had been historically listed in previous UPWPs. It did not entail active planning work, and it was removed by request of Federal Highway Administration. We have one carryover product, which is US 59 I-69 corridor congestion mitigation study. Task 5, funding for Task 5 in total increases by $94,650. That's $46.50 in planning funding, and then $90,000 for the carried over product there. This concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions. Once again, we're requesting your approval for the resolution modifying the UPWP.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Do we have any questions for him? Hearing none. Got a motion, a second? Well, yes. I think I've got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We're going to